originally released for arcades in 1993 and later ported to the Sony PlayStation in 1994, was that of Ridge Racer. It was one of the first franchises of racing games known at the time for being a solidly made racing game with a developmental time of just 8 months. During the mid to late 1990s, Reiko Legacy was known as the mascot for the series of racing games, with her first technical appearance being in Ridge Racer, released in 1996, as developmental staff decided to create a character to showcase the gaming technology of the time, and that Reiko would help to promote the Ridge Racer brand. A little known detail of Reiko is that the developer who had come up with the original concept for her didn't actually have a proper woman's face for the character's model, so he actually used his own face as a template. Due to the technology at the time, there wasn't much differences in terms of a male or female face, so this fact wasn't necessarily discovered or taken seriously until later on. Despite the first official appearance for Reiko, there were race queens depicted in previous Ridge Racer games, and some players consider these pixelated women to be perhaps Reiko from a pre-official chronological point of view. From the original 20 years of the Ridge Racing franchise, Reiko had a minor storyline throughout the games, which complemented the Ridge Racing series that players experienced. Her exact origin in Ridge Racer Type 4 had it that she was out for a walk one day somewhere within a city when, unknown to her, a street race was being held nearby. One of her shoe straps had broken and she was unable to repair it, as she was forced to continue walking barefoot. One of the racers had happened to witness her situation and decided to give her a lift where she could later find assistance, and it was presumed that due to this incident, Reiko Legacy developed a passion for cars and racing. Having minor appearances in other related games of the time, Namco decided to quietly replace Reiko as the mascot for the Ridge Racer series in Ridge Racer 5, released in 2000, with Ai Fugami. But receptions from gamers to the change of mascots were less receptive than Namco had originally thought, and Reiko was later brought back to once again become the mascot for the Ridge Racer series. Reiko was later brought back for the Ridge Racer PlayStation Portable title, released in 2004, as she was featured through the game's opening sequence as well as the ending credits. In Ridge Racer 7, released in 2006, Namco decided to expand upon Reiko to make her more than a racing queen, as she was depicted within the game as working for the Universal Federation of Ridge Racing Association, abbreviated in-game as UFRA. However, in later releases, Reiko returned to being that of a racing queen. But in the time period at which the 1st through 7th games were released in, there were no real consistencies for Reiko Legacy as a character as to what she did, besides the racing queen aspect from game to game, as the only real details that were absolute at the time were the fact that her birthday was being mentioned of the 14th of February 1975, which was perfectly normal for when the original games were released in the mid to late 1990s, but later didn't exactly make consistencies with the concepts of age adjustments for the character. Reiko Legacy would need to be that of a young woman for the Ridge Racing games, and a slightly older woman would not appeal to gamers. Theorists later confirmed this with more recent games to depict Reiko with her appearance somewhat changed, as others later commented that the more advanced computer graphics naturally led to more details for Reiko's composition to be visible, and to silently negate the year of her original birth. Despite the fact that Reiko was originally that of a race queen to promote the Ridge Racer series of games, her purpose within the games weren't exactly known, although reception to the character were positive. Sometimes the character could be forgotten because they were created to promote a series of games, but the developers of the games couldn't agree to whether have the character do more within the games or to have her just be a literal mascot.